June 15, 1944. Saipan, Mariana Islands. If you want to know what hell looks like, ask a Marine who fought on Saipan. It wasn't just the heat, it wasn't just the malaria, it was the psychology of the enemy. The Japanese defenders, commanded by General Yoshitsugu Saito, had orders to kill 7 Americans for every one of their own lives. They fought from caves, from spider holes, from the trees. But the true horror happened on the northern cliffs, Marpy Point. As the U.S. Marines advanced, thousands of Japanese civilians, women, children, old men, were told by their propaganda that the Americans were monsters who would torture and eat them. So they jumped. Mothers threw their babies off the 800-foot cliffs onto the jagged rocks below, and then jumped after them. Entire families walked into the ocean to drown. The water at the base of the cliffs turned red. The sound of bodies hitting the rocks sounded like wet sandbags dropping. The Marines watched through their binoculars, crying, screaming at them to stop. But they couldn't stop it. They didn't speak the language. Except for one Marine. Private First Class Guy Gabaldon. He was 18 years old. He was a Mexican-American street kid from East Los Angeles. He didn't look like a hero. He was 5'4", wiry, with a smart mouth. But Guy had a secret weapon. He wasn't raised by Mexicans. He was raised by the Nakano family, Japanese immigrants in L.A. He grew up eating rice, wearing geta sandals, and speaking fluent street Japanese. While other Marines saw the enemy, Guy saw people he grew up with, and he decided he wasn't going to watch them die anymore. The Rogue. Gabaldon approached his commanding officer, Captain Schwabe. "Captain," Gabaldon said, "let me go out there. I can talk to them. I can get them to surrender." The captain looked at him like he was insane. "Private, if you go out there alone, they will cut you into pieces. Stay in your foxhole. That's an order." Gabaldon saluted. "Yes, sir." Then he waited for nightfall. On the first night, he slipped out of the perimeter. He went AWOL, absent without leave. He crawled through the tall grass, moving toward the Japanese lines. He didn't take his rifle. He took a Colt .45 pistol and a pack of cigarettes. He found a cave. He could hear voices inside. Most Marines would throw a grenade. Gabaldon threw a rock. "Kombanla," he whispered into the darkness. The voices inside stopped. "I am not here to kill you," he spoke in the rough, casual Japanese dialect of the streets. "I am here to tell you the truth. The war is over. We have food. We have water. We have doctors." Silence. Then 2 Japanese soldiers crawled out, bayonets fixed. They looked at him, a small Latino kid speaking their language perfectly. They were confused. Gabaldon didn't shoot. He offered them a cigarette. "Take it. It's American tobacco, better than the dried weeds you smoke." The soldiers lowered their rifles. They were starving. They were terrified. An hour later, Gabaldon walked back to the American lines. The sentries almost shot him. "Don't shoot," Gabaldon yelled. "I brought guests." Walking behind him were 2 Japanese prisoners. Captain Schwabe was furious. "You disobeyed orders, Gabaldon. I should court-martial you." "You can court-martial me later, sir," Gabaldon grinned. "But right now, I need more cigarettes. There are a lot more of them out there." That was just the beginning. Every night, Gabaldon disappeared into the jungle. He became a ghost. He learned the terrain. He learned which caves held civilians and which held soldiers. He played a dangerous psychological game. Sometimes he was gentle. "Come out, we have rice and medicine." Sometimes he was bluffing. I have 100 Marines behind me with flamethrowers. Come out now, or you burn." In reality, he was alone. He brought back 5 prisoners, then 10, then 50. The Marines started calling him the Pied Piper of Saipan. But the Japanese high command wasn't charmed. They realized someone was stealing their troops. They put a price on his head. Snipers were ordered to look for the Mexican who speaks Japanese. On July 8th, Gabaldon pushed his luck too far. He found a massive cave complex at the base of the cliffs. He could hear hundreds of men inside. He crept closer. He saw officers. He saw machine guns. And then he felt cold steel against his neck. He had been flanked. 3 Japanese soldiers stood over him. They didn't want a cigarette. They wanted to kill him. The bayonet pressed against Gabaldon's throat. A drop of blood trickled down his neck. The Japanese soldier shouted, "Die, American pig!" Gabaldon didn't flinch. He didn't beg. He laughed. He looked the soldier in the eye and spoke in rapid-fire Japanese. "You idiot! Do you think I came alone? Look at the trees." The soldier hesitated. He looked around. The jungle was dark and silent. "My regiment is out there," Gabaldon lied smoothly. "Flamethrowers, tanks, they're waiting for my signal. If you kill me, they will burn this entire mountain to ash. You won't die like warriors. You will die like rats." It was a lie. There was no regiment. There were only crickets and shadows. But Gabaldon sold it. He acted with the arrogance of a man holding a royal flush. The soldier lowered his weapon. The fear of fire was stronger than the hate. Gabaldon stood up, dusting off his uniform. "Take me to your commander," he ordered. "I want to offer him a deal." The soldiers, confused by this small American who acted like a shogun, obeyed. They led him deeper into the cave complex. They walked into the main cavern. It was massive. The air was thick with the smell of gangrene and unwashed bodies. Hundreds of Japanese soldiers were huddled inside. Some were wounded, bandaged with dirty rags. Others were cleaning their weapons, preparing for a final banzai charge. Civilians, women and children, cowered in the back, terrified. The crowd parted as Gabaldon walked through. At the back of the cave, sitting on a crate, was the Japanese commander, an old officer with a gray beard and an ancestral sword. He looked at Gabaldon with contempt. "You are a child," the commander said. "Why should I not cut off your head?" Gabaldon lit a cigarette. He offered one to the commander. The commander refused. "Because, General," he exhaled smoke, "the war is over. Saipan has fallen. Tokyo is burning." He pointed to the civilians. "You can charge, you can die, but these people, the women, the babies, do you want them to burn too? Is that Bushido?" The commander's hand twitched on his sword hilt. He was torn between duty and humanity. Gabaldon pulled out his walkie-talkie. It was broken. The batteries were dead, but the general didn't know that. "I am calling the bombers," Gabaldon bluffed. "You have 2 minutes." The seconds ticked by. Sweat rolled down the general's face. He looked at the mothers holding their children. He looked at his wounded men who could barely stand. He realized that dying here wouldn't help the emperor. It would just be a massacre. The general slowly unbuckled his sword belt. He handed the katana to Gabaldon. It was the ultimate sign of submission. "We surrender," the general whispered. A collective sigh went through the cavern. Gabaldon took the sword. It was heavy. "Get everyone up. Leave the heavy weapons. Bring the wounded. We walk." They started to move. First 10 men, then 50, then 100. More and more soldiers emerged from the shadows of the cave. Gabaldon realized he had bitten off more than he could chew. He wasn't escorting a squad, he was escorting a battalion. Over 800 people formed a column behind him, and he was the only guard. One kid with a pistol and a broken walkie-talkie, leading an army.
The procession moved down the mountain path. It looked like a biblical exodus, a river of humanity flowing through the jungle. Gabaldon walked at the front. He kept his back straight. He couldn't show fear. If they realized he was alone, they would tear him apart. He chatted with the general in Japanese, talking about California, about food, about anything to keep them calm. They reached the edge of the American perimeter. The U.S. Marines in the foxholes saw movement in the mist. "Contact!" a sentry screamed. "Massive enemy force! Front!" Machine guns were cocked. Tanks rotated their turrets. The Marines thought it was a banzai attack. They were seconds away from opening fire and slaughtering 800 people. Gabaldon saw the American barrels leveled at him. He ran forward, waving his helmet. "Don't shoot! Don't shoot! They're prisoners!" The American captain lowered his binoculars. His jaw dropped. He saw one small Latino kid leading more prisoners than the entire division had captured in a month. "Who the hell is that?" the captain asked. "That's Gabaldon, sir," a sergeant replied. "The guy you wanted to court-martial." By the end of the campaign, Guy Gabaldon had become a myth among the Marines. They stopped calling him the Mexican. They called him the Pied Piper of Saipan. While other units were clearing caves with flamethrowers, burning everyone inside, Gabaldon was walking in with a pack of cigarettes and walking out with a platoon of prisoners. His final count was staggering: 1,500 men, civilian and military. To put that in perspective, Sergeant York, the most famous hero of World War I, captured 132 men. Audie Murphy captured dozens. Gabaldon captured an entire regiment, single-handedly. He saved the lives of the Japanese, and he saved the lives of the Marines, who didn't have to fight them. He proved that language was a weapon more powerful than a bazooka. But luck has a limit. On one of his final patrols, Gabaldon approached a hidden bunker on the northern cliffs. He tried his usual trick. "Come out, we have food." But these weren't conscripts. These were die-hard fanatics. They didn't answer with words. They answered with a Nambu machine gun. Rat-tat-tat. Bullets tore through the brush. Gabaldon was hit. He fell, bleeding into the volcanic soil. The magic spell was broken. He managed to crawl back to American lines, dragging his wounded body through the mud. His war was over. He was evacuated to a hospital ship. He left Saipan on a stretcher, but he left behind a legacy that no one could believe. In 1960, Hollywood decided to make a movie about him. It was called Hell to Eternity. It was a blockbuster. But there was a problem. Guy Gabaldon was a 5'4" Latino man from East L.A. In the movie, he was played by Jeffrey Hunter, a 6-foot-tall, blue-eyed white actor. They erased his heritage. They turned the Chicano kid into a generic white hero. Gabaldon watched the movie. He saw the fame, but he felt the sting of racism. Even when they told his story, they didn't want his face on the screen.
But the biggest injustice wasn't the movie. It was the medal. For capturing 1,500 enemies, Gabaldon was recommended for the Medal of Honor. It was downgraded to the Navy Cross. Why? Many historians and Marines believe it was because of his race. In 1944, the establishment wasn't ready to give the highest honor to a Mexican-American street kid who spoke Japanese. Gabaldon spent the rest of his life fighting for that recognition, not for the medal, but for the truth. He died in 2006. He never got the medal. But to the 1,500 men he saved and to the Marines who served with him, he didn't need a medal to be a hero. He was the Pied Piper, the man who walked into hell with a smile and talked the devil into surrendering. If this story of an unsung hero moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe. We tell the stories of the underdogs. Semper Fi, guy.